Hello, today I have two cards featuring the new Blue Knight Rubber Stamps Northern Light designer paper for card making. Let's get started. These new Northern Lights designer papers for card making are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, perfect for A2 size cards. You get 5 cards each of 5 designs. The total is 25 cards per pack. I'm going to go ahead and show you what the beautiful Northern Lights papers look like. I've tried over the years to try an ink blend or use pan pastels to create Northern Lights, but these papers are incredibly beautiful, and they take all the work out of trying to do that. You can also use these papers in different directions, so you can use them vertical or horizontal. There's also some stars intermingled in some of the backgrounds of these papers, and the back side has this beautiful design. So the back side of all of the images that I just showed you looks like this. All right, let's go ahead and I'll show you how I've created 2 different cards using these beautiful papers. I will have a link below in my description box. If you click on the More button, it'll have information on all the products that I'm using. I've selected the paper with the green lights and the blue background. For this card, I'm using the Mama Bear stencil and stamp through set. This is has a thicker stencil and mask for your standard stencil and a thinner stencil and mask to stamp through for crisper images. So I have my stencil. I'm going to go ahead and use my magnets from my glass board and hold the image down. I have some color box ink. It is metallic. You can use any metallic ink that you like. I like the metallic silver for this. And because the papers are they're not glossy or slick, this ink dries pretty quickly, which I'm glad. Sometimes when you get metallic inks, they don't dry as quickly, but this cheap color box ink that I've had for years has never let me down. So as you can see, I'm using just a foam dome blender. I'm just going around the edges first here with this silver metallic ink. You could also use white pigment ink if you'd like. Gold metallic ink. This is what it looks like when you remove the stencil. Sort of reminds you of a cloud, doesn't it? On the video, it looks a little bit white, but when you are looking at it in real light, it does have that silver look to it. For this step, I am using the thicker, what they call mask. It's basically a thicker stencil. And once I'm happy with the transparency, which this I think looks fine, I'll go ahead and grab the thinner stencil for stamping. This is the thinner stencil. It has a little bit of staining on it because I have used this before for other projects, and it doesn't interfere at all with the creating of the card. I guess the ink that I used previously stained a little bit. I think I'll grab my stamping platform here. I'm spraying a little bit of pixie spray on my mat just to give it a little bit of tack. Let that pixie spray dry completely so it doesn't rip your paper. And then here we have the thinner stencil. Now it's real important that that stencil stays put. You don't want it to move. So I'm using all of my magnets, as you can see. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the stamp that I'm going to use to stamp on top. I'm using Silhouette Pines. Going to line that up so that I'm stamping the trees inside the open area. I'm using VersaFine ink. Could use whatever black ink you prefer. I am pressing down a little bit hard on this. I really want to have a good impression. If I can avoid stamping twice, that'll help me because I just don't want my stencil to shift. And that's what it looks like when you stamp using the stencil. I am going to stamp one more time because this is pigment ink. You want to be able to get a nice impression. I am speeding this up a little bit for the sake of time. Taking the stencil off just to check my work. I see there's still a lot of open space at the bottom of the bear's paws. So I thought, well, maybe if I shift my stencil down just a little bit, I'll be able to get a more complete stamping of the beautiful trees on this stamp. So I go ahead and I just scooch it down about 1/8 of an inch, maybe. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp again once I have the position correct. And that way it'll capture more of the image onto the open area that I have for stenciling. Okay, so I'll have a confession to make. I have resorted to standing on this platform sometimes whenever I'm stamping a silhouette image or an image and I'm not happy with the way it's turning out. But this I like. I like the way this looks. That's exactly the look that I'm going for. And I think those papers really do make such a stunning background. I wonder how many of you have actually stood on your platform to get that perfect impression. All right, now I'm using the stamp set called Eagles and Foliage. So I'm using the foliage in the corners. This stamp set also has a border of pine trees, which I'm going to use at the bottom. But first I'm working on the foliage to frame the bear. It just didn't look like it had enough in the background. So that's why I decided to experiment with some other stamps. Now I have a piece of clear acetate that I'm going to use just as a test run, just to make sure that I have my stamp in the right position. This is what that Eagles and Foliage stamp set looks like, by the way. And using the acetate just helps to give me a little bit of confidence as I'm trying to design my card. I'm pleased with how that looks. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Pull that acetate out, clean it off, and go ahead and stamp more ink on that foliage. And I'm using VersaFine again. Adding a little bit of extra pressure with my little stamping pressure tool. I love this stamp, this foliage. It's beautiful pine needles. The detail is just so pretty. All right, now I'm pulling in that, what I call like the tree line. It's part of the eagle and foliage stamp set. I'm going to go ahead and clean off my acetate, clean off my stamp. Blue Knight Rubber Stamp supplies these laminated cards that you place your stamps on for storage, which makes it really nice, by the way. It's the best storage system out there as far as I'm concerned. You don't have to buy any extra envelopes if you don't want to. It's the cling foam adheres to the laminated card that they ship with it. Okay, now let's go ahead and put our acetate on top. I'm going to speed this up for time's sake. This would make a really nice Father's Day card. Happy birthday for a man, like for always looking for masculine card ideas, right? Actually, both of my cards today would make really nice masculine cards. Okay, I'm satisfied with where that is going to land. Now that I've tested it out, let's go ahead and stamp it. And let's stamp it again. Get that nice saturated black border at the bottom. And then I'll just pick up my border stamp and we're going to move it over some and finish stamping the bottom. I didn't line this one up correctly. I didn't use my acetate, and then I thought, oh no. It's a little bit lower of a tree line than the original tree line that I stamped. Do not fear. These silhouette stamps are very forgiving. I just moved it up a little bit and restamped it so that it's even with the tree line that I previously stamped. I just have a wet cloth here. I'm just cleaning up this ink so I don't get it all over my card and mess up my card, which I've been known to do with this black ink. Now this looks fine the way it is, okay? But I thought, maybe I should put some foliage in that other corner too, upper right-hand corner. Really, it's not necessary, but I kept looking at it. And of course, you know, my eye is wondering about symmetry. But first I grabbed my little mini applicator and I filled in any areas that didn't stamp solidly, which is a great trick. If you have a little makeup applicator, a little eye makeup applicator, works really well. And then I put it back in my stamp platform and decided I would stamp that upper right-hand corner. But I did grab my acetate first because I thought, is this going to look okay? Am I doing the right thing here? Is it making sense the way that, you know, it'll look? I just wanted to make sure because really it doesn't have to have it. But in the end, I like the way it looks. All right, still working with the acetate here. Happy with the position. Pull that acetate off and go ahead and stamp it for real. Okay, I'm really happy with how this turned out. That green Northern Light paper in the background looks so awesome. And I used a little bit of matting layers. I put a black matte layer and then I used a light gray card base. And that's card number 1. Card number 2, I'm using a different paper from this Northern Light paper. This one has the pretty rainbow colors, light pink, light blue, green. The silhouette stamp, it's very simple. It's called Silhouette Farmland. I don't use this stamp that much. I think it's really pretty. I think it'd be great for a masculine card. Another product I'm using is the Sun Moon Circles stamp and stencil and stamp through. So I'm using the mask that has the smaller, not the smallest, but the medium size circle opening. And through that aperture, I will be able to then use my silver ink again to create the moon above the scene. So instead of using the silver ink on like the bear, I'm using it to create a moon. I'm going to be using one of the sentiments from Bible verses 2. And the sentiment is from Psalms 27 verse 1. And let's go ahead and get stamping. All right, I did use the acetate to line this all up, so I just did not keep it on the film for the sake of time. All right, so I've got the farm scene at the bottom. I have my sentiment at the top right. Just going to go ahead and re-ink that again using my stamping platform, focusing on restamping the silhouette farm image at the bottom. It has a lot of dark area. I want to make sure I get that saturated to my liking. Now that I have the images stamped, I'll go ahead and do the stenciling. Okay, and while I'm doing the stenciling, I wanted to encourage you to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. Greatly appreciate that. I appreciate it if you would leave a comment. I'm trying to grow my channel, and the more likes and comments that I get, the more likely the algorithm will show my video to people who are searching for card making videos. The sentiment says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" That is from Psalms 27, verse 1. And here's a look at both cards that are completed. Thank you so much for watching. Have a hopeful day. Bye-bye.